Hi, so I'm Malka from the Philippines. I guess you would call me a halfie. So I think that's the official term that we use here. Because growing up, I was also referred to as a mestiza. But I think that halfies and mestizas might have different experiences. But I did grow up with people who were mestiza, and they also have a different experience. It's kind of interesting, the dynamic of how all the cultures mix together. But let's just start with me first and my own experience as a halfie. So let's start from childhood, okay? Growing up, you're not as conscious about how you look and stuff. You're not really aware that you're different, especially since I was at home most of the time and I didn't really have playmates either, except my relatives who were mestiza. To differentiate, I guess halfies are people who are like mixed blooded, and mestizas are people who are specifically of Spanish descent. So since the Philippines was colonized by Spain for like 300 plus years, there's so much Spanish in almost probably everybody's blood here. But I think to still be considered mestiza today, then you would need to have like a farm or a hacienda, and then that's what would make you mestiza or mestizo. In pre-colonial times, we did have like a caste system, and I guess I don't know, maybe it's just the thing people do, huh? And then the Spanish came and we had another one where of course they were at the top. And up to now, it's still kind of like that, which kind of sucks. But I will say that in Metro Manila, you don't feel that as much as when you are in the provinces, where the farmlands are, and the landed are, or the hacienderos are. Going back to my experience growing up, so I didn't really think anything of it. I guess it's most children's experience to grow up with adults calling you cute. I grew up with my grandmother who was a lawyer, and people would often kind of suck up to her. And so she had so many guests, clients coming in and out of her office throughout the day, and I would just be there. And of course, they would try to be like, "Oh wow, your granddaughter is so cute. Like, she's so pretty. She's so cute. Like, just like the grandmother, So that was part of my experience growing up. And now that there was a recent issue about halfies in the pageant world, about I don't even know, I didn't read up about it, but something about one of the halfies saying that, like, oh, you should be thankful for halfies or something like that because they brought like prestige to the Philippines or something. That is something that you will find here, is that a lot of our pageants are kind of dominated by halfies. And maybe because we did grow up with like that Spanish influence, there is kind of like some kind of racism or something that halfies will benefit from. Or it's not just in the Philippines, right? It's like all over the world. Like your European features are considered like what's attractive. So like that's also evident here. So growing up as a child, people would always tell me that I was gonna be Miss Universe one day. And I did end up doing pageants. So yeah, I kind of attributed all the compliments or foreshadowing of my pageant career was because of my being a halfie, probably. I also remember when I was a kid in Shangri-La, and there was maybe they were Chinese or Korean tourists, and they saw me with my cousin, and we were going up the stairs, and the mom stopped. She was with her son. She stopped me and my cousin, and we were like kids, okay? We were like, what, 7 years old? And she stopped us and she asked, just signing or broken English, like, "Oh, can I take a picture of you with my son?" So it was kind of strange, I guess, but that was my first photo with strangers. And I ended up, now that I'm a grown-up, having been a beauty queen, I can say that that was the first of many photos with people that I don't actually know in person. Another part of my experience growing up is always hearing the joke and having to like perfect a fake laugh of like, oh, half German, half shepherd, you know. It's actually, now this is not a fake laugh, it's actually really cute now, because I think it became an old joke even for everyone else too. But if you grew up a halfie in the Philippines, people would ask you, like, it's part of small talk, oh, where are you from? Oh, and then to be so surprised to learn that, oh, you're Filipina. And then proceeding to ask, so what's your mom and dad? And usually the experience of halfies is that their dad is the foreigner and their mom is the Filipina. But for me, in my case, both my parents are actually Filipino, and my mom is the halfie, and I'm technically not a halfie. I'm just a 1/4. I'm just 1/4 what my mom is, which is half American. So people are always pleasantly surprised to hear when I say that, no, I'm actually just Filipina with like a sprinkle, or in Bisaya pa, pisik-pisik na American blood. Since I grew up in the province, I'm Bisaya, and for some reason that gives me more, I don't know, credibility as a Filipino. You know, like I can speak Tagalog and Bisaya. So I have two Philippine languages under my belt. So that also makes me kind of proud. Just to share like what the experience like for my brother, he would say that looking white has privileges in the Philippines because you can present yourself as more assertive, maybe because of that Spanish influence where they were considered, that look was considered like the authority. So he says that he has benefited from that and used it to his advantage. Meanwhile, me as a woman, I feel like maybe it just has to do with being a woman, you know, girl perks, woman perks. So now going to the mestiza part of the experience, which has been shared to me, theirs is totally something else. I notice when I do get more attention compared to my peers because I look different, because I stand out. I remember going home from school and walking, or even taking public transportation, and just being super self-conscious and growing up so awkward because people would stare where I would go, when I would walk. Was I tall? I was taller than the regular person my age, but in a sea of people, probably not that tall, just like, or maybe now that I'm in my full height, I'm still taller than most people here in the Philippines. But maybe I was just white, so people would see me, notice me, stare at me, talk about me. I would remember that, and maybe they would think nga, I can't understand the language, so they would talk about me, but I could. But it wasn't like bad, it was just awkward. I just didn't know what to do with the attention. It made me like slouch more, it made me not sway my hips more, you know, it made me very self-conscious. So when I did actually join pageantry, that was probably something that I needed to break out of my shell. But growing up as a halfie together with mestizas, there was a difference. Maybe when you're outside of that world, you see it and you just see the luxury, the high status, the wealth. Outside that world, when you look at that world, the Spanish world community, that's probably what people would see, and especially in a small town. And I grew up in Dumaguete. It's a very small town. It's so small that like everybody knew each other. Today it's not like that anymore, but during my parents' time it was like that. Everybody knew each other. So if you came from a family, an old family, a Spanish family, a well-known family, then people like knew your bloodline, knew your heritage, and it's almost kind of like Game of Thronesy, you know, that like, oh, the banner of the Starks, the banner of the whatever. It's almost like that. To put it plainly, their own kind of nobility or royalty. And I think humanity, you know, we just have a fascination with hierarchy and status and wealth, but more so when you're probably part of it or in it or around it. I grew up around it. I knew I wasn't in it. I didn't really like belong there. And for those that did, well, it has its benefits and its disadvantages. So if you grew up in that world, the people from those families have their histories recorded, especially within their own families, and they can even date it now to when their original Peninsulares ancestors moved over here to the Philippines. For some, a source of pride, how much Spanish blood they kept in their family by either just intermarrying with other Spanish families. For others, it's also a source of pride when some of their ancestors, or maybe them, it's not so common now because there's so many of them now that they can really just still intermix with each other. And also, like, they're not everyone cares about that anymore, and so they just marry whoever they love, whoever they want, you know. But for others, they would get their wives, they would go back to Spain on like a vacation or for school or something, find their wives, bring them here, and then have families with them, and then the blood would be a lot more concentrated again. Well, it depends also on their status. Some came here recently just as farm hands. Some came here during like the, I'll have to search this, like 1800s? Am I right? Yeah, and so they were like the first few people in Negros Oriental. So they got a big chunk of the land to farm sugarcane. And so like sometimes the older your family is, the bigger the land you have, also the bigger the sense of pride that comes with it. There is an art to managing their status, their wealth. I do watch like The Crown and The Royals and like how they have like, I'm not sure how it works actually, but they have like dukes and they have lords and they have marquis, something like that. I don't know the different titles that are given, and it's interesting because I feel like there's that like little game. What is it? It's so funny, but it's like it's there. I can feel it there. I can see it there, especially when they talk about it. It's like it's a play, you know. It's a play. It's a game. It's roles and titles and honors and whatever. So what is cool are the histories. What's not cool is this mamser culture, you know. I'm probably an okay person with a good head on my shoulders, and yet somehow when I get sucked into that world, they do have a way of making you feel like that really matters. To witness that like happening in front of you and for it to have some kind of effect, it is like a thing. And it sucks because it can make you feel better for something that you didn't really like earn, and also make you feel bad for something that's not really in your power or control. So that's the side of it that I don't appreciate, and it like translates into our idea of beauty, like white skin, fine features being more attractive than our own, than in that language, Indio features, you know. But I'd say like Indio features are like pretty fucking cool too, you know. I think maybe, you know, that's why really Rizal is really our hero, because he grew up, was he a mestizo? Was he a mestizo? Yeah, so Rizal was a mestizo de sangre, which, okay, let's not forget to include our Chinese. Chinese is also part, alongside Japanese, Spanish, and Tagalog heritage. So Jose Rizal was considered higher in this system because he was a mestizo de sangre. Is that how you say it? But also because of his family heritage. More than anything now, what we admire about him is really his love of his people and his excellence in everything that he did and what he studied so that he could serve the people. And that's so crazy. You would think, right, you would be loyal to your class, being a mestizo or whatever. But no, like Rizal loved the people. He loved everyone. And it's sad to see in rural Philippines when I see like the farmers and the fishermen who maybe don't carry themselves with so much pride because they don't consider themselves of higher status, because it's so evident who is of higher status and class. Sometimes it's still felt in how people act towards each other, and that's the part that really makes me sad. Which is why I'm also happy to share with you guys some of my friends who also have a mission of uplifting the Filipino spirit. You know, we are a mix, but a big chunk of us are closer to Indios than mestizos. These friends of mine have created their own tribe and their own brand. They even sell shirts that says like Indio, and they're like so cool about it. And they're like rappers, so shout out to Mid Nasty. They're just like a high vibe tribe who are just proud of being Filipino. That's also my wish. It's hard to, when I am outwardly white looking, and sometimes I guess in my life, like I didn't know where to put myself. Like I wasn't mestiza, I'm not white, I've never even been to the States, you know, or outside of Asia. But I'm not like super Filipino as well, which I now will just claim like hello, of course I am. Hello. Duh. I'm like Bisaya. Duh. It's just meeting people like my mid-nasty friends and really just also allowing myself to giving my own self permission to connect with one another, though it is really scary and really requires bravery. It's not really scary, but it does require courage and bravery to put yourself out there and really connect with people, like regardless of who they are, you know? And that's why I'm so happy with these friends of mine, because they're trying to erase that ma'am sir culture. And for a time I didn't know, like I was like, yeah, for sure, let's do that. But if I erase the ma'am part of me, maybe it's harder sometimes also to get the kind of respect or the kind of credibility that is required just in dealing with people. These friends of mine, they would say sir or and they call everyone ma'am and sir, whether they're a vendor in the market, a janitor in this university, anyone, that they would just refer to them as like ma'am sir, because rather than I guess hating on the ma'am sir culture, they just decided to why don't we just include everyone, let's just uplift everyone, and then maybe people will start carrying themselves as a ma'am sir. So I thought at first like get rid of this idea of ma'am sir, but no, because another mentor also told me that earn the title of ma'am sir. So when it's just given to you, it's like, okay, I won't be uncomfortable with it, I'm gonna earn this title. And I'm also just gonna gladly give it to everyone so that we all just carry ourselves with a sense of like pride. More than anything now, it's so important to really look at this class division, because it's also being used as a political tool. It becomes another form of divide and conquer when the classes are kind of set up against each other. Let's say the middle class, people who earn higher salary, then they have to pay a bigger chunk of taxes. And then they get so upset when it's being mismanaged and just given away as doleouts for politicians to keep securing votes. So sometimes it might happen that the middle class will say, that's my money, why are we... They focus on the wrong problem and they make the other class, the lower income class, the problem, when in reality, if we just had better education, actual opportunities, the middle class would be bigger. There'd be more of the middle class to help each other. So it starts turning into a class war where we think that the problem is the other instead of the actual problem. And I don't know if that's engineered, but it does sound a lot like divide and conquer. You know, I think that our privilege should always make us uncomfortable, especially when there's still so many others suffering, like right within our sight. It's somehow so crazy to think that we deserve our privilege when it was really just luck that put us at a better starting point in life. I will never understand power that takes advantage of those who already have less. Because I think somehow people might think that just siding with the victors will buy them a seat at the table. But that's not usually the case. The case is more that the people who have less are more inclined to help you when you actually need it because they know what it's like to have nothing at that level at the top. Like there's a lot of like backstabbing and they don't play nice over there. When we fixate so much on appearances, on status, on wealth, or when we try to differentiate ourselves to get some source of self-esteem, and then we're using all the wrong parameters, then like what does that really mean? You know, like it's true, like in God's eyes, like we're all equal. No one is better or lesser than the other. But I will say that there are exceptionally brilliant people out there, you know? There are Jose Rizals. So why don't we aspire to be like that? More than anything that can be bestowed to us, or the things that we earn just for personal gain or ego, is really the diligence to improve ourselves, our crafts, so that we can better serve our people and humanity. That's what really can set a person apart. And if we all did that, then like, wow, what a world.
If you enjoyed this, subscribe!